Welcome to the Developing Dads podcast, episode number 53. And this is the second episode we're recording this week because we were slightly behind. In this episode, we're going to be chatting about our first parents' evening. If you're new to this channel, I'm a seasoned parent evening goer with 3 kids. Now, twins in nursery and Isla's 8 in P3. Which I have no idea what that translates to England schools, but certainly I've been to a lot of parents' evenings, so I have a few thoughts, and Gordon's just experienced his, so we're going to go into that. But it is exciting. Without further ado, let's kick off like we normally do. How's your week been? I know it's only been a couple of days since we last spoke, but how's your last couple of days been?
That's all right, Neil. There's plenty of things happening in my life, but the first one is I'm going to open myself a beer because.
Nice.
I'm like the Labrador that's not allowed on the sofa. He's on the sofa doing a podcast, having a beer because kid's asleep, right? She's upstairs. She's having a good time, and Laura's out boogieing, right? Hanging out with her gym thing buddies. So I'm here on my own, just feeling fat, happy, self-conscious with a beer while she's hanging out with hunky fitness people.
An Aldi rip-off Brewdog, I think.
It is. This is the drink tonight. It's anti-establishment IPA. The funny, I swear it's just white label Brewdog, right? They've done a deal with Aldi of some kind because, it's basically the same branding almost.
It tastes
it's brewed in Scotland. Like, what other company is doing that? But it's like rather than Brewdog's casual £4 a can or whatever it is, £3 a can. It was £1.20 or something, £1.40. So tastes good. I like it. They've also got a grapefruit one, the Elvish juice version.
It's good.
They've also got that, and it's very good. I think beer has gone down the route a bit like makeup and like painkillers, where it's all about the branding, right? Got everything else as well, cars, shoes, but to some extent, you get better if you buy a Mercedes. It's better than a Fiat. Well, you'd hope so, at the very least. But they're definitely things like, makeup and moisturizers and painkillers. I think the study's been done on the color of painkillers. Basically, they contain exactly the same thing, paracetamol and ibuprofen. But because it's branded and has colors on it, people buy it and it's 4 times more expensive. So just for any advice, the Nurofen is exactly the same as 50p Tesco's paracetamol. So, basically, there's my advice. But anyway, I'm enjoying a little beer, enjoying myself on the sofa, taking it easy on a Thursday evening, and it's quite nice actually. I haven't done this for a little while. I didn't know I was gonna have a drink because sometimes midweek it clouds your head a little bit and you feel a bit groggy the next day and you're a bit kind of crap, aren't you, Neil?
Yeah, I've committed to this week. Well, this week, excluding the weekend, no alcohol, which in a December is quite rare for me. Last week was pretty heavy. I started drinking on Tuesday, and every night until Sunday it was lots of alcohol, not just a couple.
It's like your stag do.
I'm just kind of giving myself a clean slate. So we're out on Saturday as a double date with another couple, so that'll probably be a bit messy.
So you're not doing the whole week then?
Bar the weekend.
Bar of the weekend, all right. So basically just not drinking during the week, which is pretty much what normal people do.
Yeah.
My week's been good, Neil. I think, when did we do our podcast? Monday night, didn't we? So we'd kind of caught up after 2 weeks off of just not really talking very much. To be honest, I've had quite of a slow, easy week. I think I'm grateful for the fact that I'm self-employed, where I control my diary, which is kind of daunting at the same time as actually pretty bloody nice because, I get to see Olivia a lot, especially on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, in fact, because my father-in-law had an eye operation thing and you'd had to detach something or other and they had to sew it back on or whatever else. So he was going through the rigmarole of the NHS trying to actually get there, and then there was train strikes and all bits and pieces. So we were looking after Olivia, and so we're her parents. So we had a lot of time with her, managed to get some work done, but in between sort of playing and saying hello and her bringing me stuff and then wanting to sit next to me and all this kind of stuff. But I don't know, it just sort of on reflection, it's kind of, I make enough money to cover the bills and enjoy a good life. but at the same time, I'm not a dad who is absent, which isn't a bad. Like some dads have to go to work. They have to go to work. It's part of the game, right? You've got to do it. But I'm able to do that at home and on my terms, generally speaking, which is fantastic. So I think I've had a bit of a reflection this week that that's been a big shining part of it. And as well, on Wednesday, we went out to some, like a lot of gardens, like big stately home gardens places now do these light shows in the evenings, which is quite cool, actually. Quite nice. It was at Winsley or Winslet, or I have no idea, some big house. Anyway, we went there to go and see it with Olivia. And again, just like a little family outing, right? But it was, 4:00 in the afternoon, which is
awesome.
People don't do that on a Wednesday, right? When they've got a 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 9 to 7 job. Yeah. So that was very nice. And then, just the rest of the time, just kind of like mopping up a bunch of stuff. I could definitely be more productive and probably hammer out much more work, but I'm just kind of taking my time. I'm not really too fussed.
Yeah, it's that time of year where I think it's good to wind down. It's good to kind of put a close to things and just coast.
Yeah, a little bit, because, maybe next year's going to be really busy and maybe I won't get this kind of time off, right? So I'm just going to I've coasted into a little bit. I've got nothing planned in the diary next week in terms of like work, like no client stuff to do yet. I might have one or two things. And then, the week between Christmas and New Year, I'll definitely take that off. And Laura's already asked me if I'm like taking it actually off, like turning off in terms of like shut the laptop, don't do any work. And I think I might do it. I'll see what I can do. And we'll maybe do a podcast that week and see what it feels like. But yeah, I'd quite like to just do a nothing week. So yeah, that's kind of been my week, really, Neil. And then tomorrow morning, 9:30, I'm off to Dubai again.
Was it 30
for this
hours?
time? Yeah, for this time, 36 hours, which is kind of weird. But yeah, we fly, and again, it's it's all very nice. I'm flying business class again. It's going to be on the Emirates thing. It's going to be an A380, and as well, I'm really hoping this is going to be the case. But I do like football, and I've been watching the World Cup. I don't know if I can't imagine you've been watching any of it, but maybe you have. Anyway, I do like the World Cup, so unfortunately, we're flying when the final is actually on, which is kind of annoying, right? Bit rubbish. But, and this is a big but, because when you're in first class on an A380, which is the big old plane, right? Emirates, you get these beautiful, big, massive, like business class seats. They're lovely, great. What you also get is a bar at the back of the plane. So on the top floor, you get this big bar, which is it's just like a bar in a pub, right? And you get seats and there's tables and whatnot. There's also a massive 60-inch TV screen. The TVs show live TV.
Wow.
So I'm kind of hoping, I'm hoping, I mean, you never know. I'm hoping that...
We've got a football on.
Imagine that. Imagine I'm going to be 35,000 feet in the air, drinking booze, on a plane, watching the World Cup. That's mental.
Yeah, that's definitely a story to tell the grandkids.
Yeah. Like, how many people in the world at that moment, there's like 1 billion people watch the World Cup final. Of those 1 billion people that are watching it, how many of them are 35,000 feet up in the air, drinking at a bar, watching the World Cup?
Yeah, probably your flight and maybe one or two others.
Yeah, I don't know how busy it's going to be a busy flight, so I don't know how many blokes are going to be out the back watching it, and girls. I'm sure there'll be a few girls watching it. But that's kind of my week, maybe, Neil. I think, upon reflection, I feel grateful the fact that I'm self-employed and I get so much time with Olivia, and I'm able to dictate my diary so much, and just having a good time with the family, really. And then we planned our little trip, didn't we? We
did. It's all booked. It's all confirmed.
Are we going to reveal to the to the listeners where we're off to?
We're taking a week's trip to Skye with both families and Gordon's in-laws. It should be very nice.
It'd be a big one, right? It'd be quite a lot of family stuff, and it's going to be 5 days. So who knows how we're going to cope with that? But we've got separate houses, which is probably helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Isle of Skye, I've never been. Neil's been loads of times. Like I said, I've never been. Dave and Denise have never really been. I think we're also going to do a night in Glasgow. We're trying to work out logistics. Like, driving with Olivia is probably not a good idea. So they might fly up and get the train, and then me and David will drive up or something like that, take a car. Like, we'll work it out, but basically that's kind of what we're going to do. And then I've even said to Jack and Catherine, if they can get themselves an Airbnb, then by all means come up.
Yeah. I mean, there's there's these pod things you can get. So they just sleep in them and use your place for like showers and food and.
Cool. Well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? I feel like this is a good opportunity for everyone comes together, as families, and we just have a nice time, and we just kind of hang out, and we can decide what we want to do. But if we stay around roughly the same area, I think it'd be quite fun, and that's kind of So I'm actually really looking forward to that, to be honest.
My in-laws and my brother-in-law will also be up with his kid and his wife.
Oh wow! So we got a proper family affair then.
And yeah, where we're staying in Lower Breckish is there's 4 or 5 houses, and it's all Rebecca's cousins and family and uncles and aunties. It's all like in a little.
All a little bit inbred.
No, not quite, but yeah, it'll be fun. I've looked out 2 distilleries we're going to go and see. Do
we have to drive to them, or are we going to get the wives to take us?
No, so the Tasker one, which is kind of, we need to do that one because it's the famous one, is like an hour and a half drive. It's like the other end of the island.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the names in a hat and just say, right, which one of you is coming?
I'll volunteer to drive.
Oh, you can't do that. You can have a beer. You got to have a couple of whiskies.
And then, yeah, there's an island trip we can do, which you get a ferry for 20 minutes over to an island, and it's really, really spectacular.
Cool. Up for all that, Neil. Can't wait. So, anyways, enough about me. You're off tomorrow, right? So you've had a short week. It's all done.
I am, and like it's just I've kind of explained this to other friends and family members. Is like December throughout my whole career has always been quiet. So when I was in kind of more IT technical kind of focused, there's a change freeze in organizations, so they don't tend to do anything complex or dangerous during the Christmas season because everyone's off. So if something goes wrong, then nobody's there to fix it. So they generally have end of November. It's a freeze on all things change related, project related. So yeah, I'm just kind of coasting just now, which is nice. Done a few bits and pieces. Did my course obviously a couple of weeks ago. I'm doing some internal development stuff. So the company I work for has loads of intellectual property where they've developed ways of managing transformation, managing change. So I'm learning all about that. Reading a book just now that my work got me called Business Storytelling, which is very good. But kind of the science behind how to tell a good story through business and through storytelling, which is nice. But yeah,
that's chilling. A customer one, right? So I remember there was a client of mine a long time ago. He worked for a big American bank, right? And I remember him telling me, like talking me through some stuff. And they were always like, I'd always kind of remark on the fact that these were stories for clients. It's like, oh, and during the war when so and so wanted some money, the bank was going to lend the money to them, and so they donated, like France donated like a whole row of mansions next to the Arc de Triomphe. It's all these kind of like quite cool and illustrious and quite kind of fun stories that if you are part of sort of either sales or negotiation or whatever else, you can really kind of talk about the company and talk about the things in a much more romantic way than something that seems like such a large corporation that ultimately they're going to deal with, like, that kind of thing. So that's quite clever. I'm reading actually a book about storytelling and writing, just generally speaking, because I think that's one thing I've always been very weak at, and I think it can help with my editing. It can help with my script writing and stuff for like YouTube if I want to do that. So it's a good skill to have, Neil.
Yeah, and I just love my company. We get time to kind of do self-development, so really enjoying that. And like going back to your point about having, like, seeing Olivia more, I still pinch myself where every day, I say 95% of the time, I get to pick up Isla drop off all the kids at their nursery and school and pick them up at their nursery and school. And it's just amazing, like being able to, they run to me when they see me in the playground, and yeah, like there's probably, I don't know, 80% mums, or maybe even 90% mums, 10% dads there in the playground. So I feel very, very lucky that I get to do that.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. Like even before I had kids, I think I said that that's what I wanted, right? That's what I wanted to be able to do, was to pick up and drop off my kids at school. And I got to keep reminding myself that's important. That ultimately you don't necessarily need to push if it drags you away from actually the thing that makes you happy.
Yeah. Like, and Isla's still 8 and still runs to me with a smile on her face. So I'm dreading the day when it's like, I don't know, she gets to 13 years old and she comes out in a huff.
Pretty much. Dad, leave me alone.
By then, I'll probably be my CEO hat on and running a multi-million-pound company. We'll see.
We shall see, Neil. We shall see. I don't think you'll be getting much kid time if you're running a company.
No. But yeah, like my week's been pretty chilled. I finished work on Tuesday. Tuesday's my last day.
Ooh.
So I've got a Edinburgh night out with kind of the Edinburgh crew, work related, and then that's the kind of mic drop to finish off 2022.
We're going to have to do our end of year review because we set a bunch of targets at the start of the year, didn't we?
We did.
I'll have to re-listen to that episode to remember what we're hoping to be able to do. I imagine I haven't achieved any of them, but we'll see. It's kind of interesting though, isn't it? Because my year started very differently how it's ending.
Yeah, we could digest that as well.
That would be definitely a very fun digestion.
One thing I wanted to do is like highlights as well. It's like, although looking back, maybe I don't know if we can do it in one episode. But
that's our next 2 content things, Neil. Done. You've got next week you've got highlights, and then the week between Christmas and New Year is our 2023 in review.
Done.
And then the next one is basically just what we did, what our plans are for 2023. So we got 3 bits of content sorted.
Great. And not much prep because it's all in my head. Anyway, let's move on to the topic where we're going to discuss your first parents' evening. So when was this, Gordon? Was this recently? A couple of days ago?
I couldn't go, sadly. So this is going to be a great podcast. But yeah, basically, like I told you that my father-in-law had to get an operation in his eye thing to reattach something. Well, the idea was they were going to be back in time and look after Olivia, and then we'd both be able to go. But Laura just went on her own. But I mean, it's kind of these ones are kind of a bit fake because I'm not paying for school. Like if she goes to public school, you don't pay, right? So you get not an unreasonable review of how they're getting on. But I feel like half the time nursery are just telling me what I want to hear. She's smart, she's funny, and she's sociable. That's basically like they know the game, right? Because Daddy's got to keep, Mummy and Daddy have got to keep putting their hands in the pocket to keep them employed. So
yeah,
the usual things came out, but then they are restricted. They are sort of held under account in terms of they have to look for developmental stages and tell you if the kid's going to be behind. Like they're basically there to make sure that Olivia is actually developing in the way she should in terms of her speech and way she's walking and her hand-eye coordination and all that kind of stuff. And they have to raise things if there's ever any issues. So it's pretty good. Like they're trained professionals. These are people who look out for these things. And as you know, Neil, half the time we're just winging it. Right? I've got no idea. Olivia had a rash this evening. I have no idea where it came from. No idea where it is. No idea where it's going to go. Who knows? So it's those kind of things where they're probably quite good at it because they can recognize some of these things. Anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty it's across the board. They're she's like green tick on everything really. She's chatty, she's sociable, she plays, she's kind, she's interacting, like stringing some words together, like just doing everything. And equally, there's no drama. Like there's no kind of. Initially, when she was going, she was kind of a bit apprehensive about it all because she's very much like the kind of kid that doesn't just jump straight into the deep end. She'll just sit for a minute, contemplate things, watch stuff, and then she's off. And then she's off like doing whatever she wants to do and playing and whatever else. So it's the same thing at nursery, but now she waves bye. Like, she's like, see you later, I'm off. Right, I'm going to do my thing. So, yeah. And then she comes to you when she's done for the day. But she's great. Nice. I think it's great for her. I think everything I've ever thought about nursery is generally that the earlier she can get socialized, the better the outcome overall, certainly later in life. So she's doing that. She'll move up to the next bit. But generally, Neil, I mean, she's not like taking tests or anything,
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of got the whole, I've obviously done private nursery with Isla, heard what they say, and then now she's in public, or she's in school, and the boys are in public nursery. And I always, like, there's a saying we say when we speak to salespeople in our organization, is like, does that person have happy ears? And that basically means that, like, do they just see everything with rose-tinted glasses on? And are they telling us the true story? And I just get that vibe from any teacher I speak to. Like any teacher or nursery practitioner I speak to, I just feel like they're just giving me a positive story.
Let's be honest though, Neil. Like, how many people want to tell you your kid's shit?
Like, I agree.
Nobody wants to say your kid's ugly, you dig dumb, and your kid's a bully. Like nobody wants those three things, right?
But I think I'd like to know, so I can address it at home.
I'm sure, but it's more the people shoot the messenger, right? So half the time, maybe there's someone like you, Neil, where you're a developed dad, right? You understand and you want to try and fix things if there's issues. I get that. You're rational. Not everyone's like that. Everyone thinks the sun shines out their kid's arse.
Yeah, yeah.
So you imagine being, I don't know how much nurses paid. It can't be much.
25, 30 maybe. Yeah.
Mate, they want an easy life, right? They don't want to have some parent screaming and shouting at them, telling them that their kid's Einstein when actually they're more a caricature of Donald Duck.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of interesting stories, and I doubt anybody's listening to this, and I'm obviously not going to give out names, but there's been a few incidents where the boys' nursery, there's been 2 occasions where a kid's been expelled from nursery.
From nursery? Was he dealing drugs?
Is expelled the right word? Not allowed to come back for a period of time.
Removed.
Yeah. And I don't know how they're meant to deal with it, but one of these kids was very violent towards every kid there, and obviously there's some kind of things going on that needs to be resolved. But yeah, so I guess they do look out for things, and I guess if my kids were on that serious kind of downward trend of hitting people and stuff, I'd know about it. And you also do hear of parents getting phone calls saying, can you come and pick up your child because they've been really bad or misbehaved? And I've never had that, so I think that's quite...
So you're doing something right.
Yeah, yeah.
Because like on the flip side, you've got the nursery nurses who obviously, like, especially the private ones where they need the kid to stay there because they're going to get paid, right? But at the same time, like, personally, I'm often caught in between this thing, because all my friends that have had kids, all the people I've ever spoken to, they all just think that their kid's a genius, right? They think, oh, they're so smart, they're so like fast, they're so physically like ahead of everyone. Not all kids can be ahead of everybody, and not all kids can be smart, right? So I'm kind of, as a parent, when you're in nursery, you're now seeing other kids and what they're up to and what they're doing. I'm trying not to get caught in that kind of balance of, she's incredible, she's going to be the next prime minister, like she's going to be Elon Musk, she's unbelievable, to the point of also thinking, nah, she's all right, she's got some way to go, she's doing fine, like just keep going away, give her some love and she'll be fine. But sometimes I'm going in there thinking, these kids don't even know what they're looking at, like they can't even say a word, but mine's running around saying hello, offering everyone a cup of tea.
Yeah, there's like a fine line between being worried and just running with it and seeing how it goes. And then I think there's a point in time, is it secondary school, or is it, I don't know, when they get later into primary school, is what do English, just to get the terminology right, what do English people call the primary school? I can't remember.
It's primary school.
Is it?
It's not kindergarten or something, Neil. Like, we're not in America.
No, but you guys do like year 1, 2 and 3, which is not quite
Neil, I have
1-to-1.
Like, Laura's going to have to teach me this, because I'm going to be going, she's off to do hires, but she's doing A levels. But anyway, they do like A-star crap down here as well, and there's like I don't know, there's some test, like, I don't know if you do it in Scotland, but there's some test you get into grammar school or something. I don't know. Who knows, Neil?
Like, when do you start worrying? So the last parents' evening, I'll tell you a story with Isla's last parents' evening. She, this was only maybe a month ago, 2 months ago. She's in P3 now. She's actually in a mixed class, so she's in P3/4, which I think is really good. And I'm glad she's in that class, because she's now making friends with P4s, which are obviously a bit further, a year ahead than her.
Does she also get put in her place sometimes?
I've never really heard those stories, but she loves going to school. Never had any issues, and right. She's made lots of friends. Anyway, first remark was she's a social butterfly, which was great. She seems to have like different, and we get that because like who she invites around to her house, they're almost like different groups of friends, which is nice. But they did pick up that she needs she's getting extra support, kind of one-to-one support on her numbers and her maths, which I'm glad about because, or how do I rephrase it? I'm glad they've picked it up and I'm glad they're doing something about it because class size now, I mean, she's in a class of 20 kids and I do worry sometimes that like if she's mixed with P4 and P3, are those things getting missed out? But she's getting support for that. But all round, it was a positive experience. Again, I still think teachers have rose-tinted glasses and say everything's positive, but they seem to be taking action if they think that she's a bit behind. Which is good.
It's again, there's 20 kids, right? You know, one teacher and 20 kids. It's kind of as part of public school life. Whereas when you're in a private school, you're like almost one teacher, two kids, kind of thing, right? Where there's so much more attention is applied. And it is good that these kind of things are picked up, and you know, at the end of the day, she can get the help and support that she needs, and what she needs ultimately to get picked up on those types of things. But then again, sometimes it's like, you know, maybe she's not into numbers. do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
and
so
she's still young. I remember when I went to school. I more secondary school. Don't really remember much of primary school. Although we were in a very small class, or a very small school, and had really mixed classes. But
that's the thing. That's the thing, though, Neil, isn't it? Where our schooling in primary school was a country setup where we had like 6 or 7 people in our class.
Yeah.
Whereas we're now
like 30 kids.
Yeah. Whereas our kids are going to schools where classes are 30 kids, and there's 50 classes.
In Isla's school, there's 900 primary school kids.
There you go. Like, we grew up in a school that's very different.
Yeah.
You know, which is a 30th of the size. You know, which is bonkers. So I don't know whether that was a good thing or a bad thing, because I remember going to secondary school and thinking, my God, there's a lot of kids. Whereas,
yeah, Isla loves it, and Isla's got so many diverse friend groups and different classes that still come over and play, and she seems to have done really well in making those friends. And when she got moved classes, because she got moved to a P3-4, which didn't really know many people, yeah, like that was a random decision by the school. I don't really know why they did it, but she kind of separated from her friends, but she's now made new friends. But anyway, when I was in secondary school, I got support for my English and my maths up until like, I don't know, 15, 16 years old. And I still, like, if I look back at my English tests and my maths tests, I like did foundation and standard grade, didn't get anywhere near higher. So like, I do think, and I do want to encourage our kids to go to university, because I think that gives them just a fallback plan. So if they don't get the dream job or anything, at least they've got a degree and they've got something on paper that has showed that they've done some academia. But I struggle sometimes when I think I didn't do that, and I left it, fifth year. I dropped out of college and all that kind of stuff, and here I am today. It's a
well, I did the opposite, Neil. I did higher English and higher maths.
Yeah, like I know they're important, and like Isla's reading is really coming on. She can now read, like Biff and Chip is still a thing, which is amazing. Like I remember Biff and Chip when I was younger, and she's like excellent now. Well, in my eyes, who knows what she compares to in her classmates, but she can now read a book without me kind of prompting words, which I think is awesome.
Nice.
And just seeing that development and that kind of thought process. So reading, I think, in my head is for some reason more important than numbers. But I'd be interested to hear your thoughts.
Depends on what you do, I guess. If you're an accountant, then numbers is probably a good idea. Or if you're in, I don't know, you're in insurance and all this kind of risk profile management stuff and statistics and stuff like that. And if you're a rocket scientist, I guess. But it just depends on what you're going to do. If she's a journalist, then English and reading is basically the thing to do that, right? So, yeah, I don't know. It's development aspects of things. At the end of the day, I think everyone's going to be better at something.
Yeah,
and what I think school, certainly the early stage, is basically just having a rounded kid. You know, it's like there was a thing, I don't know if it was a podcast or whatever I was listening to, but it was talking about You know, in your 20s, you should try everything and say yes to everything and do everything. In your 30s, you narrow your focus onto the thing that you're actually good at. And then ultimately in your 40s, you make money from the thing that you're actually good at. It's kind of what you're doing when you're a little kid, right? In primary school, you just diversify. You do everything. Like there's no subject that you pick or do. You just do absolutely everything. You learn everything. And then even into secondary school, you just go into a higher level of that to some extent. You still do the sciences, you still do maths, and you still do English, and you still do some bits and pieces. But it's only until you get into your teenage years do you actually then start to specify to some extent. But even then, you still have to carry on some of the basics that nearly every single person in this country will ever learn, which is maths and English, and then at least one of the sciences. You just specialize a little bit more.
Yeah.
I guess the help ultimately when they're really young, they're just trying to make sure they're fully diversified, right? Where they get to a point they're perfectly capable of doing X, Y, and Z, which is English, maths, whatever else. And then when they get to secondary school and then they get further to that, then they can go into specialization and they can start to work out exactly what they need because they still need these basic skills to pretty much do any subject. I still think the trigonometry was absolute bollocks, but sure.
And Pythagoras and algebra and yeah, there's loads of stuff that, and I do wonder what the curriculum now is going to be. I mean, there's a lot more focus, and I've said this in a few podcasts, on like mental health and what goes on in your brain and your emotions and your feelings than we ever had, which I think is a plus.
Probably going to be like a YouTube class.
Some kind of creative, yeah, it needs to be.
Maybe. I mean, it's pretty much what everyone wants to be these days, is a YouTuber of some kind.
Yeah, I mean, I remember my IT teacher, Mr. Simpson, and I actually, might shock you, but I still speak to him to this day. Mr. Simpson in Infantry Academy. I don't know how we got connected on LinkedIn. This was years ago, and every that kind of job update I've posted or something I've posted, he's always kind of messaged me saying, "Oh, great to see how you're doing," blah blah blah. But he introduced me to kind of web design and stuff, and he kind of went away from the curriculum a little bit in IT because web design and stuff wasn't a thing, but he took our class through it, and that was awesome. Like, it was so good.
Yeah. But then again, it's probably important that our kids diversify as much as possible. Like they're not going to just web design. They probably learn at least all the IT skill stuff, and then they can go and do some bits and pieces. There's one thing I
was going to say. One thing I wanted to get into is homework. And you've obviously never experienced that yet, but
no.
So it started with Isla, just more serious this year. P1 and 2, there was no homework given, so that was easy. But P3, we're getting homework, and I want to be the best like dad or parent I can be and help her through the homework and do all the homework we get given. When I asked the teacher on parents' evening, like, how much should we be doing? So she gets like math stuff to take home. She gets a book to read every week, a different book. And it's like, how often should we read that book? How often should we do the maths? And her answer was, it's entirely up to you. I'm like, that's not helping me. I want to know, is it twice a week? Is it every day? Is it twice a day? And I think parents, I've certainly heard this from other parents, is I think teachers are scared to put any pressure on parents because there's some parents out there that'll say, my kid's going to school, it's your responsibility to teach them, and go down that avenue. So now there's like, maybe later in life she'll get targets of this homework needs to be due end of the week. But currently it's as much as you feel is right. I'm like, I don't think I agree with that.
I mean, they're obviously saying that because they don't necessarily see any kind of there's I don't know why they're saying that really.
So I mean, we do it every day.
Sure, I mean,
we're reading a book, doing our maths every single day.
Not that I think this holds true to everything, but at the end of the day, time sunk is an important part of getting good at something.
Yeah,
like the 10,000 hours, whatever thing, is not necessarily true, but that helps, right? So if you start playing a piano at 2, you're going to be pretty good by the time you're 10.
Yeah, if you keep reading a book, you'll eventually nail.
It's more also the the aspect of like half an hour a day of doing something. Like how many of us actually spend half an hour just doing one or learning one new thing or writing something or just like focusing for half an hour? Barely any of us. We generally just keep doing the same thing that we know what we can do, or we're just on autopilot doing stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, if you could do maths one day, English the next day, reading, writing, spelling, whatever, that accumulates over the whole week, right? And
it's not much. Like if you think half an hour out your day, it is not much time. So I don't know. I wish teachers were a bit more prescriptive in terms of, we recommend it should be 3 times a week or 5 times a week, because there's probably kids out there that are not getting any homework, and I feel sorry for them. Like they're getting no support from their parents. They're getting no support from their peers, and they're just kind of left to it.
But then again, it goes back to your point. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to be successful, right? I could probably easily use that argument that I just used in terms of like the accumulation of time and effort. Effort, time equals outcome of some kind, which is probably going to be a good thing. But at the same time, it's only a probably. Some people ace tests. Like some people don't even revise for tests, but then they ultimately end up going to Cambridge.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Just because they're smart enough. So I don't know. At the end of the day, even more so the fact that I think about having a kid now and what we've gone through having a kid. I'm just like, just do what you think is what you want to do. Like as a parent, like whether someone thinks you're neglecting them or not, or whether you think you're over parenting, or whether you're just in the middle ground, or I don't know. It's all the same. Like
yeah.
It's all one and the same to some extent. Like, you could probably say this is slightly better parenting and that's slightly worse parenting, and there's certainly the law that then describes what's bad parenting. But I don't know. For me, it's kind of like, if a teacher says do it as you want, then fine. That's what we'll do.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
One thing I am very surprised about is, which is kind of annoying, is the whole getting teachers presents.
Oh, I've been part of that blooming.
Here we are
every year.
But it's in the nursery, right? This is a £700 a month nursery, and apparently presents are a thing. Like I'm bribing the nursery nurses to look after my kid properly. Wow. Like what's too much? What's too little, Neil? What's too little to the point where you embarrass yourself? Is it better just not giving anything?
Do you come in as a group and get one big thing, or I guess you so in the classes there's the WhatsApp groups, and
I don't socialize with our parents, Neil. I'm not like my daughter.
Yeah, so with us, we I don't know who organises it. Rebecca's part of the group. I'm not. But every year we get a message and says it's time. It's Christmas. They're getting a Christmas present, and we put in £10 each. So there's 20 kids. It's £200 that this teacher's getting, and she got some nice stuff. Like I think last year, there's a fancy hotel in the centre of Edinburgh. I can't remember the name of it. It's right by Waverley Station. She got a spa day thing there with afternoon tea, which I don't know. I think it's lovely because I think teachers nowadays, I don't think they get paid enough. We're going down a rabbit hole here. But I know it's private nurses, a bit different to what you're paying, but teachers certainly, I think they're on about 30 grand a year. And I know they get lots of holidays, but they're also we get messages from our teacher in the evenings, when there's the updates and homework and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know, they do put a shift in, so I don't mind putting in a tenner.
That's fair enough.
But with private nursery.
I don't know, Neil. I'm just kind of half and half with it, because there's part of it is being nice, like you are, right? But there's a level of competition going on as well, isn't there?
Especially when you don't come in as a group, when you say tenner for all parents.
Yeah, So I don't know. I kind of was just a bit shocked that that's apparently a thing. Like you get presents, which feels a bit odd, but it's kind of part of it. And I guess one of the big things, I kind of mentioned it jokingly, but one of the big things is actually, I close the door and I don't know what happens unless they tell me, right? So you're always in this position where I'm always going to look after my kid the best way I can, generally speaking. depending on how hungover or tired or how much is annoying me. But generally speaking, I'm going to look after well. And you've got to trust that. When you shut that door, you've got to trust it, right? You got to trust that time. And you're like, I don't doubt it, but at the same time, this part of me is like, oh, you know, it's going to be all right, or she's going to be fine, or are they going to notice things? Are they going to give her water? Are they going to feed her okay? Are they going to make sure she gets her nap? And you have to then like kind of negotiate with them and be like, she needs to nap at this time. If she doesn't nap at this time, she's going to be grumpy. If you don't feed her, if you don't do these kind of things, you know. Because did I tell you our nursery went from excellent to inadequate?
Oh no.
Oh, this is a good one. This is a good one for the podcast. £700 a month, Neil. Okay, £700 a month. We signed up. Nursery by Ofsted was rated. Ofsted is the regulatory board that sort of assesses nurseries and schools and all sorts of other crap. Anyway, it was excellent. Excellent nursery. And we're like, great. Excellent nursery. Put her in. Ofsted comes in, didn't they? Do a little report, check them out, assess them. Inadequate. Then, 2 weeks later, they send us a letter. The prices are going up. I was like, are you... Hold on a minute. So Laura was in yesterday just being like, hold on a minute, you're putting the prices up, but you're inadequate. Like, But then I'm kind of taking like our mum, she used to say that you should go and dine at a restaurant that's been investigated for food poisoning. Because it'll be the cleanest restaurant ever, right? But it'll be this swankiest, cleanest kitchen you've ever eaten out of.
So they're now on a mission to get up to excellent.
So so they're kind of demonstrating at the moment. They're doing well. But the inadequate thing. And it was all stuff like they sent a letter out about it because it's public knowledge, right? You can go and see the report.
Do it with schools as well and stuff.
Yeah, you can do all that kind of stuff. So you can read it if you want to, but it was all kind of stuff you're like, all right, okay. It's not a massive grievance here. It's just that you've got some student nursery nurse who's not used a fresh plate to butter the toast. I mean, if you saw what I did with my kid, like Ofsted would not be rating me, that's for sure. Like things you do as a parent, like when Olivia gets up, we do her bottle, and I really like she likes it too. But basically, she sits on the countertop with me while I'm making the bottle, and she'll help me like make coffee, and there's like all sorts of things. But I'm telling you, she falls off that counter, it's not going to be it's not going to be a good thing.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't happen obviously in a nursery, right? That's not happening. So I guess there's a bit of that, but yeah, you've got to trust it, right? Same with schools. You've got to trust. You shut the door and off they go. Yeah,
like it's interesting when you think about the school reports. We looked at the reports that our school goes to. I think it's every like 5 years or something they get updated. But I don't know when the next one is. But imagine if you put your kids into the school thinking, yes, it's excellent, then it goes just plummeting downhill. That'd be a bit worrying. And with school, you can't really do anything. With nursery, you could move them. But with school, you're kind of stuck.
Oh yeah, private. That's part of like, you know, my ambitions. My ambition is to privately educate my children. Whether someone thinks that's right or wrong, I don't care. It's, you know, the likelihood of better outcomes is higher in my mind. And if it's disposable income that I can use, then I'll do it. And you can't move them, right? You can just move them around private schools if you want to. It doesn't really matter. And if they get excellent, they get excellent. But yeah, public schools, you ain't doing anything with that. Like it's not happening.
Yeah. How? I mean, you haven't really been down this rabbit hole yet, but we have some parents on social media who post their kids' report cards and things like that.
Oh.
And like boast about it. And I definitely don't agree with that. Like, A, does your kid want their report card on social media? Probably not. And B, like, why? What validation are you looking for? That really grinds my gears.
Status games, Neil. I've got a smart kid.
Yeah. So the teacher with rose-tinted glasses thinks. That's not telling you the truth.
But it's the same. It's the same as like I think one of my friends met his girlfriend's parents for the first time. She dragged his Oxford degree out.
Wow.
And like put it in, but it was framed and put it on like on the site. But that's what people do, right? It kind of, you know, they put titles in front of their name. At the end of the name, they, you know, do all that kind of stuff when they're adults. Adults will do that for their kids because they're just, partly I think they want someone to turn around and go, your kid's all right. They're doing fine. Well done. Crack on.
Yeah. You know?
Or it's just a bit weird. Why would you do that?
I know. But it's the same people that post their Christmas presents on Facebook.
Interesting.
Anyway, that was a good conversation. Some takeaways, I think, for the half a listener that's probably left on this dry subject. Not too dry, but if you've got kids, hopefully it's interesting. I guess don't get too hung up on, especially if they're young kids, don't get too hung up on their abilities yet. I think
it's the comparison issue, isn't it? That's the thing. It fundamentally comes down to, especially when it's your first kid, you worry about absolutely everything. Like you're walking in the dark when it comes to a kid. Like I said today, like she had a rash on her legs. I have no idea where that came from. I don't know if it's dangerous.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she seems fine in herself, and that's basically what the doctor down the phone's going to ask me, right? Same thing when they're like development aspect of things. By now, we probably would have noticed something if there was something a bit different about Olivia. But even then, still, like it still might take 5 years before we see if there's anything that she makes her very different to other children. So who knows? So for me, like I just try and ignore the idea of comparing them, and I also try and ignore the natural instinct to think she's an absolute genius and she's going to conquer the world. Whereas I'm just happy being with her, right? She's a really nice person, and I just want to hang out with her. And you know, whether she's super high intellect or super low intellect, it doesn't matter, because I think she's such a lovely little person, and I just want to hang out with her all the time. So, yeah, I think the comparison thing's a tough part, right? And the unknown, I guess, as a parent.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Especially when I don't know, it'd be interesting if we're still doing this podcast when our kids are going through exams and stuff. But that kind of, I mean, they're actually talking about, there's various political parties or public parties, people getting together and basically saying that exams should be removed from the curriculum and just have like quarterly tests, small tests, and like project work and all that kind of stuff, which is interesting.
All right. It will be interesting, yes. I think that's partly leaning on the we shouldn't push our kids too hard. Just in case, you know, we don't want them to get too stressed, right? Got to take it easy, you know. Got to be grateful for all the things in our lives. Yeah, I don't know. Perhaps not. I think tests are probably not a bad thing, because you'll quickly realize whether or not you are actually clever or not.
True.
And equally, the deadline of do this thing is pretty common across pretty much anything you're going to do for the rest of your adulthood, right?
Yeah.
If you're not tested for and not held accountable to things, like, you're just going to be a bum smoking joints in your living room.
You're not going to get very far.
Probably not. No, not if you're held accountable to certain things. If you just, you know, project work or what, I don't know whatever the theory might be from the SNP recently.
Taxes are going up though.
Oh, the SNP putting the taxes up.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't open with that conversation on the podcast, Gordon.
I didn't know the SNP were putting up taxes. The English government aren't.
Yeah.
Excellent. And
the Scottish budget was announced today.
Oh, was it? Hold on. Let me have a look at this for a quick 5 minutes about this. BBC Scottish budget. I knew the budget was out today, but I don't really pay attention to the Scottish budget because Scotland's not even a country.
I mean, I worked it out, and it's about, I don't know.
Hold on, here we go. Right, I've got it.
A few coffees a month. I'm paying extra. So I'm not bothered about that.
Was that high earners?
So high earners.
Everyone earning more than 43k in Scotland will have to pay more income tax. Oh dear.
A penny per pound.
Oh dear. What a shame! You know Scotland's got the highest taxes in the UK.
We've also got free education for our kids.
You do. You also have one of the largest deficits in the UK for tax contribution. So the tax contribution that you make, Neil, for every person in Scotland, they actually take more than they contribute. Did you know that?
I don't want to go into detail, but if my 3 kids can get a degree for free, then I'll happily pay a penny more.
Sure. Well, if the SNP
and free prescriptions,
I suppose if the SNP keep going, it'd probably be worthless by the time they get the free degree. So Should be free in Scotland, and you'd be like, "Can I get a job in England? Have you got a degree from Scotland?" No.
Hey, let's go down the rabbit hole of prestigious universities in Scotland.
Okay. Neither of which we went to.
Anyway.
Are you going to close this out, Neil? Because I closed the last one out and you introduced this one.
On that note, yes, I think Gordon had some pretty sound advice. Don't compare, but it's hard not to sometimes. But yeah, don't compare. Anyway, thanks for listening to episode number 53. You can reach us on all podcast platforms. Spotify.
Sometimes Neil posts on Instagram as well. Sometimes. Not always.
The return on investment's not very good. Like, it still takes me a long time. I don't have much time. Anyway, give us a rating. Give us a 5 stars. Next couple of episodes should be hopefully more interesting than this one. Talking about what we've achieved in 2020, some of our highlights, and what we plan to do in 2023.
Wow. The anticipation will be building amongst our audience. They cannot wait. All right.
Yeah.
See you later.